Hey everybody, it's Steve Tarter, another edition of Tarter Sauce here at the palatial Peoria Journal-Star. I say palatial all the time, I don't know why I do. But we're here in Peoria, Illinois, and with me today, Carl Cannon, Sherry Cannon. Welcome so much to coming here. There's a lot to talk about. Another school year started.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
We're in the middle of it.
You guys are preparing for it all, probably year-round. Tell us now, one of the things that, Carl, You've headed up the elite program, and Sherry, you're the program administrator, I think.
Program coordinator and
I get the
administrative
words right.
assistant.
Administrative assistant. Tell us what elite is. There's probably people out there who've heard of it. They don't know about it. What is elite?
I guess the easier way to define it is to first determine where it's being utilized. In a school, it's simply behavior control.
Oh. Okay.
Our job is to control behavior so American heroes, teachers, can teach. Elite, for somebody needing a second chance, it's just that. We're that next chance for someone coming out of the prison system and needing to integrate back into the community. That's where we become a bridge for them.
Multifaceted.
It is multifaceted, and it's age-based. So the message delivered to adults or high school students is completely different than the message we're going to deliver to primary school students.
Sherry, can you give us a little history on Elite?
I can. I remember back in, I think it was probably late 04, 05, I get a call from Carl, and he says, hey, can you come to a meeting? He says, I'm trying to do something different. He said, we've got all these problems in the community with young kids. So I go to a meeting. There's about 15 of us, and he puts out this idea about this elite program. And the whole concept, the name wasn't even there then. It was just, I know I need to do something. He says, I'm being challenged by, I'm doing the Choices program, and I'm going in, and I'm trying to do this kind of a scared straight. He says, but I need to get a better touch on these kids. So 20 of us sat in a room at the Riverplex and came up with the concept of what he said he wanted to do, and it became Elite. And it started out going into high schools for 11 weeks. We had to get the school board on board. We got the mayor on board. We had to do a lot of politicking to get it done. I think Ken Hinton was the superintendent at the time. And so we went in that first year. We had about 90 students in 3 schools. It was Woodruff at the time, Central, and Manual. And we took them through 11-week course of soft skills, really just trying to get them prepared for jobs, because Carl had talked to a bunch of different businesses around the city, mostly fast food restaurants and things like that. Said, if I can prepare some young people, would you hire them? Right. And they said yes. So we got these kids, about 90 of them. We probably had to let about a third of them go because they just didn't want to follow the protocol. But then at the end, we had a graduation, we had a job fair, and that's how Elite began. And it began just doing this soft skill program in the high school. Then after that, superintendent change.
Well, before you go further, the premise behind the high school concept was a healthy occupation of time. We felt like if we could teach young people to get a job, keep a job, and excel in a job, they kind of understand what it's like to be grown. Trying to get them to understand that being grown is overrated. When you're grown, you got to go to work. When you do a real job and you do 40 hours, come home, you look for a pillow. You're not interested in the alleys or the streets.
Right.
And so that was the premise.
I see. So Elite's been around, 14 years, or in that area?
Right around.
You've done a lot of homework here, and there's probably many aspects to it we won't have time to get into. But has it evolved in a way that you wouldn't have expected?
Absolutely. As Sherry mentioned, the initial goal was to give young people a healthy occupation of time. We had no idea that while doing this 11-week boot camp, that the superintendent would later come to us and say, we're seeing a difference in these young people who are participating in your program. Their academics are going up. their disciplinary referrals are going down. And the question was, can you get to them sooner? And our answer was, we better, because high school is late. It was at that time they asked us to take on a K-8 building, Tree Wind.
Wow.
Tree Wind at the time was number 27, meaning 27 schools in a school district. It was the worst, and it had a well-deserved reputation. So we went to work using the same concept.
Is it daunting to both of you? Because some of us go into a classroom, and it's not our kids necessarily, and the teacher has control of it. But when you go in and you're just a visitor, they can walk all over you. Because the kids know it's like a substitute teacher. We can do whatever we want.
Well, when we went into the high schools, for example, we were in there in a classroom period. They literally came to us. It was the elite class. And we did that for like 11 weeks. And what elite does really well is give you the rules up front. It's like, and they have to sign an agreement that they're going to honor these rules. It's like a covenant with us. We said, this is what we promise, but we have to have a promise from you. So when we set the rules, those are the expectations. So to say that was like a substitute teacher, I beg to differ. It was complete opposite. And even in today's environment,
right,
where a teacher may not have control over the classroom, an elite personnel comes in there, there's a whole different environment. And there's a couple reasons for that.
Yeah, let's talk about profile of a typical elite student, at least in the early stages. When you think of it in terms of a school building, you got top 10, you got bottom 10. Everybody else is in the middle. So elite's job is to attack the middle. If you can move the middle, you can crowd the top. They say it's lonely up there. If you can get movement on the bottom 10, it's the same profile on the bottom that's in that bottom 10. So if someone in that bottom 10 can see someone like themselves inching forward, having success, the mindset is if he can do it, she can do it, doggone it, I can do it. But trying to get young people to understand we can't help you until you're ready to help yourself.
And that's the big thing. Obviously breaking through there.
There's another thing that I think is important as well. When you look at Peoria Public Schools, 70% of our student body are children of color. The teaching percentage is under 10% of teachers of color. So what elite does really well, in particular, is most of our people are men. So they fill a vacant spot for a lot of children who come to school that come from fatherless homes, as well as seeing somebody that looks like them. So that makes a big difference. And one of the big things that Carl talks about is all the time is role model. So our people role model for them different aspects of things that are missing in their lives. And so the relationship that elite establishes, we did it in high school, we're doing it in the K-8 buildings, and we're doing it with our reentry program, is it's people that look like you in most cases that you can identify with. And it just works.
How do you respond to because we have problems here in Peoria and sometimes we get caught up in them, but one of the Peoria public school system has had its many issues, budgetary and so forth. Sometimes the schools, and you mentioned it, Carl, in talking about Tree Wind, their scores maybe not have been high or very low. How do you keep strong on this? Because obviously you have a method that you feel has worked and will work. Is there a tendency to want to say, oh man, this is getting me down a little bit here? Or how do you keep it up?
Just being honest, it's not hard. When you see the lights go on, when you have an everyday presence in a building, and you know where we started, and you see that light go on, it's
brings
an
you up.
energy that I can't describe. I would just say to anyone who just wants to have a challenge and be successful at it, walk with us. Because we're not academics. I wish I was, but we can relate. Our expertise is in relationships, establishing relationships. If you keep in mind that you're working with children, we're the adult. We don't cave to their way of doing things. They are challenged with caving to our way. With that said, we have to be consistent. If we put a program in there and then it's yanked because of $1 here and $1 there, and that happened to us last year, it's not fair to the kids. It's just, I go back to the power word, consistency.
Right. Peoria, have you had requests from other school districts, from other areas that maybe have been hearing about Elite?
Yeah. They're coming in now. And now we're finally able to capture data and allow them to see the ABCs and what we're doing. And ABCs are attendance, behavior, and course passage or grades. It takes a couple years to see the fruits of the labor, but the hard part is getting started. That first year, it's a culture shock for the population of students because, as Sherry said, it's primarily men. Even when men talk in a building, because there's often very few of them, it sounds like they're yelling. So some would say Elite has an in-your-face approach. No, it's not. It is a very close touch, and it's powerful relationships that lead not just in the building. These relationships are established in their households. We do home visits. We do neighbor visits. We are there. When Sherry said role model, it's because I tell our guys, I apologize to them up front. I say, you don't get a day off. And they'll look, no day, no time off. Say, yeah, when you're in Kroger, you've been in an Elite, you're a role model. So you can't get mad at the cashier, and you can't, you have to handle it like a role model would handle it. And so Elite is not just during the day, it's in the evening, at basketball games or softball games. It's on the weekends, it's holidays, it's working the fair. I don't get paid to work the Heart of Illinois Fair or March Madness, but if our kids see us there, it's a continuation of what happened during the day.
And more than even that, Steve, it's these men, and there are women as well that are in the schools that are helping these kids with homework. Sometimes it's rides, sometimes it's food. I remember a few years ago where they had to travel back and forth. Somebody that had a heart problem, and Elite was taking them back and forth to Chicago to make the family visits. We do Christmas baskets. We do Thanksgiving baskets. This guy's always out there, trying to get somebody to make some donations, and it's always for somebody else. And generally, it's our children and their families.
Go ahead, Carl.
I was just going to say, typically our children suffer from the factors, and I use 3: poverty, geography, where they live, and dysfunction. As Sherry mentioned, fatherless homes. But we try to get them to understand those are bad, but they're not excuses. I say you have to control what you have control over, and your ability to focus is where you got to put the effort. You do your part, and you need something that's going to help get you over the edge. That's what we're going to be, parents, not you, young person. We'll be the parent. We'll go get this need. You do your part.
I can see how that would be very satisfying. Very challenging, but hey, you're putting help where it's really needed.
Yeah.
Do people understand this concept? In general, obviously some do and some don't, but in general, is there a misunderstanding? Because it seems like people are so quick to run from Peoria Public Schools. We see that. I guess it might depend on what their attitude is, but how do we bring that around? How do we change that?
Elite has evolved since its beginning. We didn't understand what the good Lord was having us do. We didn't know. But as it turns out, we're learning to be parents or surrogate parents of children that are not our blood. So as time has evolved, we've learned and we've created a concept that actually can be modeled, and it can help all of our schools, I believe, eventually have success. It's not a poor people's concept, it's a people concept.
Universal.
You can have all the resources in the world, but be within your mind and have a mental challenge. Well, establishing relationships with a responsible adult allows even that child with all the resources to have a chance at having the rest of their life, and to challenge those with the resources to continue on that same path. They become part of the answer, not part of the problem, teaching them that we can't fix it back here until you graduate and then remember where you came from, or remember where it's broken. Come help us, help those that you see today. They'll be there, that profile tomorrow.
And I tell you who understands this is educators. If you talk to any of the teachers or administrators in any of the schools that Elite has had it or touch at, they will tell you Elite works. Right now, Tom Blumer, who's the principal at Lincoln School, will tell anybody that listens, I'm only at Lincoln School because Elite is here. When we went into Elite, Tom was actually the principal at the alternative school. When we went into Lincoln, he was the principal at Woodruff, and he said he used to stand in the doorway and say, man, I'm glad I'm not at that school. And then after we went in and the principal was there, moved, and he eventually came, but it was because of Elite that school turned around. It was 27 on the list when we went in. It couldn't even get substitutes there because there was so much chaos there.
Right.
You don't hear about that today anymore. As a matter of fact, that we just was there a couple weeks ago doing professional development with the teachers and the Elite team, and it's a whole different place. And I would encourage anybody that doesn't know what Elite does is to go visit one of the schools.
Well, and what are the schools? Well,
Right
I think
now,
you named them, but
it's
give them again.
Lincoln K-8. It's Sterling Middle School. It's Quest Middle School and Quest High School.
Both Quest. Yeah. What, Sherry, let me ask you, and then we'll ask Carl. What do you see as the biggest challenge for Elite right now?
It's always finances.
Funding.
We always struggle to make budget meet because the amazing thing about Elite, we're part of the Peoria Park District, the only park district in the country that allows a type of programming that we do through Elite to happen. But it also has a budget, and so our challenge is to be able to bring funding to help support what we're able to do, because not only are we in the schools, and the schools is a kind of different, the K-8 buildings are different because those are contracts with those different schools, but to do the high school program and to do the reentry program causes us to have some creative ideas of going to people and asking for some
and
support.
That's where I have to kind of chime in. The Peoria Park District funds the high school reentry concept. The K-8 concept is actually separate, and it's done through Title I dollars in those buildings. So when they run out of Title I dollars, it makes it very
It's an impact
with all of the challenges that a school has.
Oh, I can see that. So moving forward, are you on strong ground with Elite, or I mean, how do you look at it in terms of funding?
In terms of, it's year to year.
Year to year.
You know,
So people need to get involved and find out about this and
absolutely
and understand.
The schools are doing what they can.
And we're coming up with some creative fundraising ideas. We do, one of our biggest one that we've been doing for years is our 4th of July parking at the Riverplex.
Oh, yeah.
And that's always a great success. It's one of the really, and there's really no overhead much because the Park District allows us to use all those facilities.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have a good friend in Jason Councilman at Chick-fil-A. He comes in, sets up a kiosk, sells his product, and all that money goes back into Elite. And we have really strong supporters out there. But can we use more? Absolutely.
The strength of the league, it's not a book. It is people power. It's that individual who can establish that relationship. And a lot of times that person is someone who's been there, done that, and regretted past decisions, who can pass it on today to young people making those same decisions. They'll have a credibility that you and I could never have. They're all background checked. You know, I'd never put a child in harm's way. But I understand that if we keep doing things the same way we're doing it, the question becomes, how's that working? You mentioned it earlier, our schools, people are leaving the area. Well, we got to give them a reason to come back. If we can produce strong young men and women and maybe change the direction where they're headed and quit making it so complicated to be successful. College is successful, but not every young person's going to make it to a 4-year institution. But we've got a 2-year institution called ICC. They have various vocational skills that anybody, most can make it. We just got to change what success looks like and have them achieve it earlier. Quit saying to a child getting a D that they got to get it to an A. Well, if you said, can you get it to a C, they'll at least try. If they don't try, we don't have a chance. So we got to change what success looks like. We got to make it move, meaning quit marking time, young people, moving and going nowhere. I want you to go from a D to a C minus. You got 2 weeks. Can you do it? That child said, oh, I can do it. Now you got it to a C minus. Can you get it to a C? The effort, 100% effort.
And the confidence that goes with that.
There you go.
Well, Carl, as if you didn't have enough challenges in your LEAD program, you're also on the board of the Peoria Housing Authority.
That's
and
right.
have been for how many years?
About 12 years.
About 12 years. There's another challenge, I guess you could say. How is that going? I mean, PHA is many things. What's your quick overview of that?
That's one of my many loves. One of my primary loves.
Okay.
It's one thing to help our kids, but if we really want to help our kids, we'd probably better look at who can undo what we're trying to do. So it causes us to go into homes. And in the homes of the impoverished, it's going to be in the housing authority and helping that parent, often a single parent, find that window called success the same way. And that might be a job. That might be helping their child move forward. It just depends on the issue and the issue of the day, being, flexible enough to make that adjustment, but also challenging that parent. These were built, if it's Taft, if it's theirs, that's temporary. That's the way I want you to look at it as temporary. We can bridge you up to where you can get permanent housing that's not a part of a project.
And I know you helped me in a story that we did recently at the Journal-Star on Taft Homes, because Taft has been, I think, looking to, I don't know what the right word would be, not necessarily move, but I think, as you said, there's temporary housing there that's probably outlived its, it wasn't intended to last as long as it did. Yeah. So efforts to relocate, and these might be scattered site and the different things, tend to fall on deaf ears, or at least opposition. And I know nothing is going on right now. You're still working on developing new plans. What can be done there to kind of assist the reallocation, I guess you could say, of our folks?
I think we in Peoria Housing Authority need to do a better job of marketing just who are the occupants of Peoria Housing Authority properties. We got some amazing residents who are doing an amazing job. Too often, though, Steve, when they're in disadvantaged areas geographically. So something will happen on Adams, close to Wayne Street, which is both Adams and Wayne are outside the property, but the news report will be
Taft Homes.
And that's such an unfair rap to Taft Homes, because if you're a felon, you can't be in Taft Homes, or you risk the long arm of the law. So we have to do a better job of marketing that our residents are their parents, their grandparents, and they're trying to help us bring another generation that's needing a hand up, not a hand out.
And I would think too, and we talked to just a few of the residents, the strength, is it the resilience? I mean, you're impressed by that. I mean, I have to be, and obviously you try to spread that around as much as you can. I know, in what you do.
We're talking about somebody who's able to get the most out of the least.
Yeah,
those are some hardworking people, and getting the most out of the least, and not letting the world know that you have the least.
That's a challenge right there, and that's an admirable quality. I mean, no doubt about it. What can we look for in the future from PHA? Are we going to be hearing about some new plans, or is that still in the works? Because
yeah, and we have a new leader.
Right.
Director Newman I think she's fantastic.
From Springfield.
She comes from Springfield, Illinois. They have a very, very successful housing authority there. And she brought her talents to help us. We're a like-sized city. So I'm excited. I had a meeting just yesterday with staff and Director Newman, and they're excited. So coming soon to a community near us will be some good news.
Good.
Coming out
great.
of the Peoria Housing Authority.
Very good. Well, Sherry, anything you want to add in terms of elite? You mentioned always looking for friendly folks that want to get involved, sponsors, things of that sort.
We don't only need your financial support. We need your physical support. We're always looking for volunteers. The strength of Elite is our volunteer source. So if you are retired, or if you're even, I was actually at Bradley at their volunteer fair on Monday, and we had about 30 young people sign up. That's hopefully we're going to be able to get in to mentor and role model and tutor some of the young people.
If somebody is listening to you right now, do they go to a website, or they make a call? How do they get involved?
They're going to call me at the Riverplex. That's where I'm housed.
Okay.
At 282-1510.
Okay.
That's my direct line, and I'm always wanting to meet people and to talk about what Elite does. Love to give the Elite story, and checks are always welcome. They can send a check to me at the Riverplex in the Peoria Park District, name Elite.
Yeah.
And we'll be happy, and it's tax deductible.
Oh, there you go.
So, it's always, your money is well spent, and you can still write it off. But the biggest thing is really, it's kids, it's young people, it's lives. And our motto is, we want them to know is that your today does not have to dictate your tomorrow. That there's, like Carl says, it's second chances, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And so our desire is to get people in front of them that can role model other choices for them.
Great.
And if I could close.
Oh, sure.
To those in your audience, if you want to feel good, Steve asked me, do you get tired? Maybe, yeah, but not from going around kids who are thirsty, who are hungry, who are eager. And the piece that's missing is that person in the audience. Assume we're not going to get it right until you get on board. We'll control the behavior. You just get on board, and you can control their progress. You can help us with the progress.
Very good. Sherry, Carl, Cannon, thank you. We think this is I think many of us have been exposed to Elite over the years, and see it in displays and all this, but hearing about it and seeing all the figures here, you get a better sense of it. And best of luck as this moves forward. We'll have you come back and tell us what's going on.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Steve.
Oh, you bet. I want to thank Matt Dayhoff, who's been at the controls, gets this out to you people and makes it all public. And I'm Steve Tarter, and we'll see you next time on Tarter Sauce.